Hello and welcome to episode 53 of our Conversations to Connect. Let's Get Real Talks, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm Cyndi ONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. And at Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative networking and solutions to boost your business. So each month, we nominate a different member of our community to be able to have a meaningful conversation with. So I want to invite you to make yourself comfortable with a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice. Take notes and make sure to add comments to the chat box. And around the 45-minute mark or so, I'll unmute the lines and invite our listeners to ask their thought-provoking questions or ahas, epiphanies, and just really join us in that in the wonderful conversation that's about to unfold. So in the course of these 53 episodes, we've encouraged and supported our community to stay connected during these challenging and uncertain times. So before we get started, I just want to invite you to set aside any distractions and invest your attention in the conversation that's about to unfold. So look for just one idea or something that you can take away and implement into your life and take action on immediately, so that you don't cheat yourself out of the experience that we're going to be having here today. So our conversation to connect this week is with the amazing Kelli Wike. Hi, Kelli. Am I mispronouncing your name?
Wike.
Wike.
Just
Kelli,
like it sounds.
Wike. Just like it sounds. I love it. Kelli Wike from Bothell, Washington. And we're going to be talking about 5 secrets to health, energy, and longevity. So before we dive into this intriguing conversation, and really important and timely, given we're at the beginning of the year and we're thinking about our health and ways we can take care of ourselves, I want to take a moment to introduce Kelli to our listeners and really share her passion about working with people to create strategies and plans to provide an inside-out approach to health and wellness. So Kelli Wike,
Good job.
SN, is a nutrition and health consultant specializing in supplementation, anti-aging, and weight management. She has a degree in nutritional science from Bastyr University and has a passion for nutrition education. Her mission is to encourage lifestyle changes by making them quick, fun, and easy. Welcome, Kelli.
Thank you for having me today, Cyndi. What a pleasure.
Well, it is an honor. And I just, gosh, from the first time we met years ago at a coffee shop, I was introduced to you by a friend of mine, or mutual friend of ours, I should say. I just really love your passion and desire to make a difference in people's lives. So before we dive in here, share a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah. Oh, it has been a journey. I'll tell you. You know, one of my mission has always been, it still remains the same, is I want to spread the mission of health and wellness in a truthful way and teach the truth about nutrition, because there's a lot of conflicting information out there and a lot of people are confused. I mean, and that's happened more and more over the years in light of the fact that we have a lot of science. Nutrition's become political. It's become, you know, just kind of our food industry is involved, everything else. So it has always remained the same. But initially, I really felt a passion for the way what I had found early on in my life was how different foods affected my body. So if I would eat crappy foods, I would feel crappy. If I would eat good food. So I started as a young person. I was a athlete in high school, so I was a gymnast, so I could see the difference when I was really, you know, putting output out there with my physical body, the difference of the fuel that I put in there. And so I got that connection early. But then I happened to be raised in a home where my mother was a chronic dieter. My dad was a gardener. So I've always said I get the best of both worlds. Like my mom gave me the chocolate and my dad taught me how to do a garden. So I think those early influences really affected my life. And so as I went through, I thought, you know, I kept reading things about it. And my doctor said to me, have you ever thought of going back to school and getting a degree in nutrition? At the time, I had been a flight attendant for like maybe 10 years and traveling around the world trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So it was later that I figured it out. And he recommended Bastyr University. He was on the board, and I'm more of a natural approach to health, right? So I'm more of trying to take care of our food. I look at food as medicine. I look at vegetables as, fuel for the body. And so that was, that's what I stood for. And so that journey took a while. It took a lot of effort to go back to school at 30 years old. And it was, thank God it was before I had children. So that would have been a different pathway. But so it's just been my mission and passion. And as years gone by, it's sort of evolved, right? As science has evolved. And back then, we were really pioneering natural health, even though because we have the medical society where, give a pill and you have a quick fix. And back then, they didn't even have, the only health food store was PCC. You couldn't, nowadays you could walk in and get healthy food at any grocery store. And so I was a young mother trying to help other mothers figure out a way how to feed their family healthfully and not stop at every fast food restaurant along the way. And in that, I needed to make it quick, easy, and fun so that people would do it. And it has to taste good too, right? Because if it doesn't taste good, we're not going to do it and won't last very long. So, I lead a horse to water. It has to be quick and easy. And so that's really been my mission. And then targeting, mothers and women who really are the providers they make the buying decisions in the home.
Right.
And they make those health decisions for their family. So that was important to me.
Well, I love that you use the word transformation so much, because that is your company, right? Transformation mission. Yeah. And it's so succinct and beautiful, because that's your passion for making a difference in the world and giving people easy strategies to be able to do that. So we're in for a treat today, guys, because Kelli's graciously agreed to share with us, 5 simple steps, easy, natural techniques, right, Kelli? Right. That will help us give us energy, vitality throughout the day. And, all with the goal of having healthier bodies and stronger immune systems, which is more important now than ever before. Yeah, boy, especially after the last couple of years, right? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we need to know ways that we can strengthen our immune system, because, I'm a believer, and I think you are too, from our conversations, that if we take care of our body and give our body what it needs, our bodies can heal themselves. Yeah. And that's a concept I think that we've forgotten in our culture. Right. And, it hasn't been easy. We're bombarded with all kinds of things, and the stress of our lifestyle and the world we live in today, it's a lot different than the one our grandparents lived in, or our great grandparents. It is. Yeah. It is. So we need to educate ourselves and know the things that we need to do to supplement, or to be more proactive in taking care of our health. So I'm excited. I'm going to just toss it back to you and get us going and sharing your 5 secrets to health, energy, and longevity. Yeah. Well, one thing I know, you probably all know this too, it's not just about the food we eat, right? And over the years, I found that out. And one of the hardest things I've had to do is walk my talk. And over the years, I found out different ways that I can work with clients and myself to kind of train me to get better and better. And so those 5 topics, one of them is start with a good morning routine, an evening ritual, which involves how you're sleeping. Because one of the things, one of the complaints to a lot of doctors is, I don't have energy, I'm not sleeping well. Those are 2 major things. Also, we got to get moving. We all know that. That gives us more energy. Feeding your body right. I'll go into a little more detail with that, because I have some little quick skills there. And I have some show and tell too. Oh, awesome.
Also, you want to pick your eating windows, and I'll talk about that. That'll tie into, what to eat. But basically, what is really
Can I jump in for just a
Yeah,
second?
sure.
Because I really, in hearing your 5 steps, I want to just put a bow around it because we're both business women, right?
Right.
We've got some businessmen in in our conversation here today as well, when we open the lines. But, so when you and I talked about doing this topic and having this conversation, we really want to bring it in, make it applicable to those of us who have businesses.
Exactly.
And we have busy lives. So it's not compartmentalizing our, just these are the things you need to do, but,
Yeah.
In the context of running our business and having more energy, having more stamina, being able to be more focused. So I love that about what you and I were talking about earlier. And I just wanted to kind of put it out there at the beginning, and then we can tie it in.
Right. Which is why I start with, your morning routine, because it all starts there. And we all know that it's, our intention of the day. Certainly. So I look at my morning as getting my mind set. And if I'm on a program of health, which I look at our health and the human body as should be your number one priority, especially if you're a mother or a business person. We all have gifts to give the world. And if we don't take care of this, nothing else I talk about today will happen. It doesn't, everything else does not matter, because if you're sick, and you can ask people who are on their deathbed if they wish they would have taken care of themselves better. And I saw that firsthand with my parents, who made lifestyle choices that were not good, that led them to, in the end of their life, not being able to die healthfully, right? Don't we just want to turn off the light switch instead of the dimmer bulb? And it's hard to watch a dimmer bulb at the end, believe me. So my mission is really to say, if you start your day, you got to get your mindset right. So it's your intention to take care of yourself, and your self-care should be number one, just so you can take care of everything else on this list. But I have started a morning practice where when I get up in the morning, the first step out of the bed, I'm just grateful that I'm able to walk and I'm able to get out of bed. I'd just gone through a knee replacement, and it wasn't so easy to get out of bed for a little while there, but just to be grateful for that. And then to take a moment or moments of silence, whether that's meditation or prayer or just quiet. So you can kind of see, before you pick up your phone or your device or get on the computer or the phone rings, take this time for yourself, whether you set an alarm and it's 5 minutes, whatever it is, make sure that you have that silence. And that sets the tone for the day. So if you can just sort of listen. And I always, think of water is my next go-to. So I take a big glass of water in the morning. Yeah, it's sort of like the shower on the inside, but it sets your body up. Cleans out, it moves, it prepares for any supplements you may be taking, any food you may be taking later on in the day. It just helps get things moving through the body. And everything we talk about today, I'll just lead into this, is around your gut and what you put in, okay? So it also involves, lowering stress and everything else. But so in the morning, by having that routine where I go in, I turn, have that moment to myself. I go in, I turn on my coffee machine. I drink coffee in the morning, and then I switch to tea later. But the first thing I do is turn that coffee machine on. Now, these are kind of like habit stacking. So these are like little tips. So here's your hors d'oeuvre platter, guys. If there's something here that resonates with you, write it down. If it, like Cyndi said in the beginning, if it doesn't, then don't. And then turn the coffee machine on, take that big glass of water. And then while I'm waiting for the coffee, I just start stretching, just side to side, making little turns, making sure my hands touch the ground. You can hold on to the counter, do some stretches there while you're waiting. There's not a moment we can miss here. If you're in a hurry and you're going to work or something, or getting ready for your day, get those stretches in. And then after that, I take my supplements. Now, certain supplements you may not be able to take unless you're taking it with food. And we'll talk about that a little bit later because there's some space you might need to make there in time. But take my supplements, get my coffee ready, and then I go in and do a little bit of morning routine. I'm going to recommend this book. How many of you have read The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod? He's got steps in here where you can do all of this morning mindset, reading, exercise, all of it. You can do it in 6 minutes. Also an app, so they walk you through it, the whole meditation and everything. So I would highly recommend getting your morning set up that way. But once that's done, you've had success, right? Pat yourself on the back, you started your morning right, and then you can move into your day. And also, I talked about the stretching. I've just recently went through a course with Tony Robbins, and he talked about getting your energy level up. And this talks about energy level. And every 30 minutes throughout the day, you should get up and move. Even if you're working from home, just get up, stretch, go grab another glass of water, because water throughout the day is going to hydrate you and help with all the other systems in the body, get your bowels moving, all of that. And he talks about doing quick little things like, and I call these non-negotiables, right? So I have other forms of exercise that I do now throughout the day, now that my knee's better. I get on a bike, but if you have a non-negotiable in the morning where it's just a few sit-ups or it's a few little arm things, but in order to move and to get the energy level up, he has this little boxing thing. You do 40 little boxing things really fast, and then over to the side, and then maybe get on the floor and do a plank. So this lifts your energy level up, right? And you're ready to take on the day. So I'm going to give you that little tip because that's been really quick for me. But sometimes I don't have time to do my bike, and I will do that and I'll check it off. I'll go, okay, I did that.
Right.
And same thing with reading. If you want to read or get a book going or get some thoughts going and be able to journal and that kind of thing. Habit stack. So put the book on tape while you're walking. You can do your affirmations and your mindset while you're walking or while you're driving your car to work. So you're getting these things in throughout the day in little ways that you can add it to your life. So
I love it. So many great things. And what I love about what you're sharing is these are simple things that don't cost anything, but that are really important in our health and moving us forward towards our goals. And they're things that we can do immediately. I love the idea of habit stacking. And, here's another part for me. Today is March 1st. And I love the beginning of a new month, because if I've blown it the month before and I said I was going to get up and do certain things like you mentioned, or get up and read my Bible verse of the day or whatever, and then I fall down a couple of days and I feel like, oh man, I blew it. A new month, we have a new opportunity to carve out what we want to make happen in the next 31 days. Right.
Exactly. And then it feels good to have something accomplished first thing in the day, because then the rest of the day, if you're a business person, the rest of the day, it just naturally happens because your energy, you're vibing at a higher level.
Yes.
And that whole energy carries throughout the rest of the day. And I like to talk to people about, it's about making a decision and making choices where they matter the most to you. And if your health is a priority, the decision you make when you have a choice between stopping at the fast food restaurant or pulling over to the grocery store and grabbing something healthier, that's now on you.
Yes.
Because you've got to get these values. You've got to value your health, especially because we need to build our immune system. And we need to, if we don't want to catch the viruses, if we don't want to catch the colds and the flus, it starts here with you. And so that's really the mission of the whole thing. And that morning routine, that morning routine is going to set the tone for the rest of the day.
It does. It will.
Yeah.
Can we back up a minute? Because you mentioned
Yeah.
water, and I'm, hydrating, drinking water, filtered water. But I have a habit of putting 3 drops of essential oil, lemon essential oil. And I understand that it's really good for your liver, especially to help cleanse your liver and wake it up and detox it. Do
Yeah.
you have anything to add
Yeah.
about that?
I do. I recommend either lemon or a little apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to talk about that when I talk a little bit more about the food, because it's called a prebiotic, and getting those prebiotics in there help balance your gut microbiome. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But whether that water in the morning is hot or cold, so I heat that coffee up, right? Maybe you heat a teapot and you drink, which is preferable, the lemon water or the apple cider vinegar. So you get that good gut bacteria going in the morning. And that would be, highly recommended. Yeah. And any simple way, like you said, you drop essential oils in there. That's great. I have these little True Lemon packets that are just pure lemon crystals that I pour in there if I don't have lemons at home. So they're a backup.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, the habit stacking is important. Whatever you're going to do, that's easy, because if you don't, oh, darn, I don't have a lemon, there goes that day.
Yeah. Right.
You have things that are predictable and easy to grab.
Yeah.
So I love that. Okay. Before we move on, I want you to just share with me quickly any non-negotiables for that morning routine. Like, let's say, you've got a meeting that morning. What are some non-negotiables?
Well, as your alarm went off, the first thing you could do is just lay there and give gratitude for being able to wake up to that alarm. That to me is a non-negotiable. And then my little quiet moment can happen right there in bed. I could just lay there for a moment, have my little quick prayer, think, who am I supposed to serve today? And then take that step out of bed. Some people use that step as being, gratitude all along the way to the toilet. Thank you, God, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's my non-negotiable. Also, I take my supplements first thing after my water. Those are my habit stacks. I go right down there and do that first, so I don't forget. I have them out where I can see them. And so those are non-negotiable morning things for me.
Okay.
And then now that little exercise routine that I'm doing, that little fast thing, that takes a few seconds. I can do that while that coffee's heating up too. Right after the stretches.
Well, Kelli, what just dawned on me is that what the things that you're talking about, whether you have a few minutes or you have an open morning, it's all about being conscious and making that choice and decision for yourself.
Yep.
Right. So it could be done
intention.
Intention. Yes. So I love that, because we all need to be more conscious and more aware, and then set the intention and then walk in that intention and forgive ourselves when we blow it, because we all do.
Exactly. Forgive ourselves when we blow it. So really, and we talk about that little boxing thing or whatever it is. Maybe it's sit-ups, maybe it's push-ups, whatever, to get that energy up. And maybe that's when you go take your walk or you go to your exercise class or whatever. So you're getting that up there first before you pick up the phone, before you look at it. Who's the priority, Right. And that's what we want. That's the main thing here, the message.
So we've had our morning routine, getting our mind in the right mindset. And so now we're moving towards the end of the day. Tell us about the evening ritual.
The evening rituals tend to be harder for people because maybe there's just no awareness about it. There's a lot of problems with people sleeping. And a lot of that has to do with if you stop eating and drinking 2 hours before that bedtime, 1 to 2 hours before that bedtime, that's going to help with sleep. And also, turning off the blue light, putting the phone down, turning that off, the TV screen or whatever is that blue light coming at you at least 1 hour before bedtime. I tell people if you could get on a regular schedule, some people have that luxury and some don't, but to put a timer. Oh, it's 8 o'clock, time to start, washing my face, getting my pajamas on. Maybe I take a shower or a hot bath at night to calm me down. the exception to drinking, I'm talking about drinking water and tea at night because people get up to go to the bathroom at night and that interrupts their sleep. But a cup of chamomile tea about 7:30, just, to get your energy level, have that ritual, maybe light a candle, start dimming the lights in the house, getting up, taking the bath, getting in bed at that same time every night. And sometimes reading makes people sleepy. So just having that, the bedroom set up so that it's conducive to sleep, no TV in there, blue light, that kind of thing. So the evening routine is really important to set you up for the morning, right? Because if you're up all night tossing and turning, you don't feel so good in the morning and your energy level goes. So that's why those evening routines are very important. So
well, I found also, I found that if I miss my window and I stay up till like 11 or 11:30, it's even if I'm really tired, it's hard for me to get to sleep.
Yeah, because you get that second wind.
I know. Yeah. I get that a lot.
I know. And some people, will have a glass of wine or one or two. And sometimes that you think it's relaxing at first, but then it could affect your sleep later. And this is just really on a daily basis. Certainly, sometimes you have an alarm set, you got to go to the airport in the morning, or you've been out with friends and you've had dinner late. And I'm talking about on a daily basis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of your routine, part of something that you do as a practice. And again, I like that you're saying, it's not that you have to do that all the time. There's flexibility, there's things that happen in life, but to get that, that routine going, we have to do it consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to do. So we've covered the three. We've got our morning routine. We have our evening ritual taken care of. You got to get moving. That's for energy too. All of this is around taking care of our metabolic health, because that's really what we're trying to do here. Our metabolic health is really about our metabolism and how our energy or things that we eat, things that we do to our body affects our entire systems in the body. But it all relates back to our gut microbiome. And that's really the big buzz in nutrition right now is this gut microbiome. Have you guys all heard that term before?
Yes.
It's really, as a nutritionist, that was the very first thing we ever looked at. It was like when I had little kids, I'd say, don't flush the toilet. Let me see, because I know what we're putting in. I want to see how it's coming out, because everything goes through there. Every system in our body is affected by our metabolic health. That's our A1C, that's our cholesterol level, that's our blood pressure, that's our metabolism. And now the new research, I love this new nutrition research that's coming out. We know now that our gut bacteria, that there's this pathway between the brain and the gut. Of course, it shouldn't be a surprise because what you eat, how it makes you feel. And you eat crappy food and you're in depression, or you have an anxiety, or you're hyped up. So it makes sense. And we all know this intuitively. Everything I'm saying, you all know, right? It doesn't take rocket science to figure out. Our grandma told us how to treat our body. We almost should have listened to her, because they had the garden in the backyard and cut the food and brought it in the house and cooked it, or we ate it raw with dirt all over it. We've got to kind of go back to full circle in treating our food as medicine. And if we don't do that, I think our society is going to be in a lot of trouble, especially with the soil the way it is, and the additives that we're adding to all the food. So I don't have to get on the soapbox for that, because I really believe everybody knows it. When I was back at Bastyr 35 years ago, people didn't, I was so surprised by that disconnect, that they didn't believe it, that I had to prove it to them.
At Bastyr?
Yeah, not at Bastyr, but out in society.
Yes,
because there's
absolutely.
fast food on every street corner.
Oh,
And
yeah.
these people were, driving their kids up and feeding them, breakfast there and dinner, lunch, they got the school lunch program. So, I think now people are more open to it, more aware of it. And we're starting to, put all the pieces together. So that's,
Yeah, and there are so many pieces because, even you're eating organic food from the grocery store. We don't know really where there's a lot of trust involved, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
our soil's depleted.
Right.
So we're not getting the minerals and vitamins that our grandparents did years ago.
Mhm.
Even when we eat a carrot nowadays, I think it's the equivalent I heard was 35 carrots. We need
Yes.
35 carrots for the nutrients that they would
Right.
get from one carrot.
Mhm.
1 carrot years ago.
And that's happened over the years as our soil has changed and our farming practices have changed,
Yes.
particularly with our beef and our chicken. And so one of the things that affects the microbiome is a beautiful balance in the body. And a lot of it, we're all compromised there. You hear leaky gut and you hear all this, I can't take wheat, I have gluten-free.
Right. All the
All of
allergies.
this is built around our gut bacteria and our gut microbiome. So we're all born with a good, healthy dose of bacteria. And if we, it comes from our mother, and if you go through the birth canal, you're just covered with it. And then when the mother breastfeeds, the baby gets a little bit of that bacteria that gets in their gut and, helps promote health. So though it starts right there, right? But then over the years, this baby maybe goes on, gets an ear infection. So they put the baby on antibiotics, and then the antibiotics kill all the good bacteria in the gut. And then the mom's feeding the baby something else, some formula or some, those little gummies that all the red dyes and food products and things that are in kids' foods. The kid gets exposed to all of that. And then now we have all of these problems with children with behavioral, remember the gut microbiome, it's just all related. So we have to really look at, okay, we've got to start thinking about what we're putting in there and that fuel that's affecting the body. So that kills the gut microbiome. So then we need to think about replacing it. And if you think about like our grandparents, whatever country you're from, we had this, we call prebiotics. And prebiotics are like the miracle grow that you throw on your probiotics, and it helps it proliferate. So it's the good and the bad bacteria, right? The prebiotic sort of sets up the gut and helps that good stuff grow, right? So we want more of it. And as a culture of humans, we used to have a lot of pickled foods. Norwegians, we had pickled herring. The Greeks have their yogurt. The Germans had sauerkraut. Remember in the morning I said, take the apple cider vinegar. This is the quick fix, the one with the mother in it,
Right.
want to make sure. But that kind of helps replace that. Pickles are another thing that, the light went off there. Pickles are another thing that, cucumbers or pickled cucumbers, you can work with that as a quick, get the prebiotic in there. And if you think, there's a lot of research right now in postbiotics. So you got the prebiotic, you've got your probiotic, and now there's research in postbiotics. So if you look at a garden and the prebiotics, the miracle grow, and you throw it on the vegetables, on the other side, the postbiotic is like the dead stuff from the fruits and the vegetables, right? That you put on for compost, and that keeps the weeds down. So eating vegetables, raw vegetables, keeping a lot of fiber in the diet and that kind of thing keeps the weeds down. And so getting that healthy microbiome is probably the best thing you could do for your health, and just keeping that perfect little balance going. And ways to tell her is, if you have gas, bloating, you're not sleeping, you're depressed, you have anxiety, you can see it in your skin. A lot of this means that your microbiome may be out of balance. And so that's one of the first places I start, and educating people about making choices. If you can, choose organic. Watch that your food, milk, whatever, doesn't have the antibiotics in it, about the cattle, right?
Right.
So the way our cattle is produced, the way our chickens are produced is, they're going to fatten them up. And so they give them steroids to grow faster. And so they produce more milk, and then they get mastitis, and then you give them an antibiotic. So there's traces of antibiotics in our food. And not that we can avoid it all the time, but just on a general basis, make that food choice, if you can, a priority in the type of foods. The other thing that ruins the gut microbiome is the artificial sweeteners. Also fats. Make sure that the fats you're taking, you're not using polyunsaturated fats and those type of things, because that really kills the good bacteria in the gut. So you want to bring in more avocado, more olive oil, more coconut oil, more natural, real butter, not margarine, none of those polyunsaturated fats or trans fats. I'm assuming everybody knows about that now, but.
Well, yeah. And it's interesting because I remember being a young girl, and we all, the bread would, get bad.
Yeah.
And after a few days, and we used to only have real butter. And then there was this fad of, what was that butter called? Margarine. Margarine came on the scene.
Or Crisco.
And Crisco. And,
Mhm.
I remember my mom saying, oh, we should do margarine. They say it's healthier. It's like, oh my gosh, the propaganda out there, right?
Right. Yeah. And that happened after World War II, too, in the food industry, which, by the way, is the largest industry in this country. They did that in order to shelf life. So things lasted on the shelf. And then the grocery stores started taking off, and the food industry just went crazy right about that time. And that's when a lot of prepackaged processed foods came into play. And didn't you notice that that's when heart disease and cancer and everything else began to start? So that could be a clue, or it could be a coincidence.
Yes. But I even remember when I was a young girl, when McDonald's was just getting going, and the fries tasted like fries then, right?
Yeah.
And it actually tasted more like wholesome. And then over the years, it's gotten more, well, all those commercials
Change the
about
oil.
It's the oil and the flour they use, and
Yeah.
and then they're just compressed. They're not real potatoes, and there's
Yeah.
just so many things that those. I'm trying to think of the name of that movie. No, it wasn't Super Size.
Yeah. Super Size Me.
Maybe it was Super Size Me.
Yeah.
That
That's
they
good.
had the burger and the fries under somebody's car for a month or something. It was
Yeah. And then he got so fat from eating that every day for, was it like 2 or 3 weeks? And then he goes, yeah, increase in sodium. So the other issue I want to leave you with before we finish with the diet and move into the eating windows is the real detriment on our health is simple sugar. It's sugar, it's carbohydrates. And part of the problem is it raises our insulin level, and we have highs and lows throughout the day. So if you have insulin continuing, you see this rise in diabetes, right? And then this is like the metabolic, get on this metabolic pathway where, only 1 in 14 of us right now are metabolically healthy. That means our waist circumference, our A1C, our cholesterol levels, our blood pressure, something out of whack of those starts a chain reaction where they start putting you on the cholesterol lowering medicine, then they get you on the blood pressure medicine. And I'm here to tell you, you can eat your way out of it. If you catch this soon enough, you can eat your way out of it. And number one, we think fat's the culprit, right? We've always been told that. But really, if you look at the history of that, what it really was, the sugar industry, the food industry, in the shelf life and all of those products they were producing had a lot of carbohydrates in them, simple, and the body produced really fast, and it shoots your blood sugar up. Insulin stays in the blood, and the blood gets sticky. And then the plaque sticks to the arteries in the wall. And you have a lot of problems. So what I recommend my clients to do in order to keep their insulin levels down is anytime your body eats a carbohydrate, a fat, or a protein, the 3 macronutrients, it processes those carbs first. Even if you just had fat with it and protein with it, it wants to get rid of those carbs because our brain prefers the carbohydrates because it can burn that fuel really fast because it's simple and it just burns it fast. But it has to signal the pancreas. The hypothalamus signals the pancreas, there's sugar in the body, we need insulin. So it pumps out insulin. And all day long, if you're eating all day long and you're eating carbohydrates and simple sugars, even, bigger carbohydrates that, I call complex carbohydrates, same thing. So the human body wasn't designed to have food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You see these commercials for pizza and you stop and get, and then we have snacks. And then I was taught we're supposed to eat small, frequent meals all day long. Just keeps our blood sugar, keeps dumping the insulin in. So the idea here is if you're going to eat, make sure it's going to be proteins and fat, but go longer periods in between food. And I'll tell you why. The cavemen didn't have food all day long, right? So the deer would come in, you'd eat the deer, the meat, and you have a feast and you'd have that food. And then maybe we could gather berries at certain times of year and eat berries. But they had, and remember when our grandparents were just eating 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and nothing in between?
No snacks.
You didn't have the obesity
Right.
that we have now. So we need to go back to eliminating the idea that we need to be eating all the time. Our body and our digestive system needs to rest. You have to give it a break. It's got to sit there a while with nothing in it so it can move that through the microbiome. We're just overworking everything. And then we're aging quicker. We're becoming are metabolically unhealthy. We have obesity and diabetes on the rampage. So I talk about eating windows and making sure that you can go at least 12 hours without eating. And I buy time at night. So if you go to bed a little earlier, say you stop eating at 7 o'clock and you go to bed, there's your 12 hours till 7 the next morning. I would even stretch that longer, especially for women. And especially if you're not working out, you're trying to get your brain back into the game. Try to stretch it out and make a 16-hour window. It won't happen all of a sudden because you got to kind of wean into it. But then making those other 6 hours maybe a lunch or early lunch, and then wait at least 4 hours till you eat dinner. And then by giving yourself time to digest what just happened, you don't have to limit a lot of those foods then. You want to try to stick to healthy, wholesome foods, of course, and just try to stretch that eating window and shake it up too, because, maybe Sunday's a feast day and you have a big breakfast and a lunch and a dinner, but go back to your daily routine where you're working on eating in certain windows and stretching time in between food. I guess this doesn't include Christmas or a birthday.
Well, again, it's like we were talking about earlier. It's not, this is not something that if you don't do it, you're a failure or whatever. It's just that's the lifestyle, that's the routine, that's the habit stacking you were talking about earlier, that allows you to binge and have a wonderful, holiday with family. And
right.
That's why we're all sleepy and, bust in the gut at Thanksgiving, right? Because we overeat.
But I think you'll notice that it really helps with your energy level. And anybody who's looking to manage their weight, who's looking to get off of blood pressure medications, or always work with your doctor on any pharmaceuticals that you're on. One of the first places we see is the blood pressure, because once the body it acts really quickly. And once a little bit of weight comes off, or you start getting fitness and your body's operating better, the blood pressure needs to be adjusted with your physician or your pharmacist to make sure that they lower the amount, especially if you're starting to feel tired. But that always check with your physician. And I have a great book that backs up everything I'm talking about, called The Obesity Code, and also the Diabetes Code. Let me grab it so you can see the cover of it. It's by Jason Fung, Dr. Jason Fung. He is a foremost author on fasting and how to do it safely. I don't even like to call it fasting. Did you notice I called it eating windows?
Yeah, I love that.
Fasting scares people.
Yes, it does. And it's not always easy.
Right.
So his last name is Jason Fung.
Fung. F-U-N-G.
F-U-N-G. Okay.
This is the obesity code. He also wrote the diabetes code, but he has a practice where he treats diabetics and tries to get them off the medications and working with diet, eating their way out of it. Okay. So I highly recommend that book. It's really good.
My goodness. This has been so much fun, Kelli. You've shared so much great information, helping us get started with a morning routine, and then being able to have that sustain us so that we have a healthy evening ritual as well, help our sleep, which is so critical to get through the day. And then, tips to rev up our energy. And then I really appreciated you taking the time to really educate us about the metabolic health, and being able to take care of our gut, because gut health is critical. We're hearing more and more about that, and thank you for those tips to be able to manage that. Because one of the things that I really love that you said is that you can eat your way out of many issues, right? So that shows how critical our diet is, and having a good diet and not having processed foods and a lot of sugar, and then also ending with the picking your eating window. I did notice, and I really like that you use that terminology, because we need to give our bodies, our stomach, time to rest, so that it can actually, that energy goes to helping other systems in our body, right? It doesn't have to be digesting food. It could be actually helping detox our liver or gallbladder or whatever.
Yeah, you notice your body does that naturally. When you're sick, you don't feel like eating, right?
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we really just need to be quiet and start listening. What's going on here?
Yes.
Am I pooping regularly? Am I taking time to take care of myself? These are
right. I love that. Well, why don't we go ahead and open it up? Anyone who has a question, something that Kelli said really struck you, or you want to kind of continue the conversation with us, feel free to unmute yourself, and we'd love to hear from you and have you join our conversation.
I also have some really good I forgot to talk a little bit about bone broth as being a healing for the gut. And I think,
go ahead and share that with us while we're waiting for people to unmute.
Yeah. What's happened is, a lot of times, when we think of changing our whole diet and our whole thinking, I like to think of this as a sense of abundance, not deprivation. So we can add healthy, health building foods in, and not look at it as we got to stay away from this stuff, right? So I like to say, let's pick your, I won't say pick your poison, but let's pick what's important to you. Because if if an occasional hamburger is important to you, let's be able to create a sense of abundance with other foods and do a trade-off. I used to do this with my kids. They come home from school, like any kid, they want candy or cookies or whatever. And I used to say, well, have you had in our house anything that was a vegetable or fruit was free, right? They could go to the fridge. They didn't have to ask us. But if it was a cookie or candy, they had to come ask. So they come home from school every day. Can I have a cookie? Can I have? I'd say, have you had anything green today? Say, no. So I said, go eat something green and then come back. And sometimes they would forget. They go eat the celery or whatever.
Right.
And they'd forget because they got full. And I would say too, in order to stall, with those eating windows, start drinking water, drink more tea, drink some bone broth. I love these little bone broth. I make my own, but a lot of people won't do that. You can go buy these sticks now. At Costco has these bare bones ones.
Oh.
And the stick goes right into your mug. And you can be up here working on your computer and working all day. And this is buying you time between the next meal.
You just add that to hot water?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can make soup with it. Throw some vegetables in there and, make soup, make a meal out of it.
Sure. Good tip.
Yeah.
So Chuck, I see you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah, real quick question on that bone broth at Costco. Is any additives or anything in it?
No, it's really great. There's a little bit of sodium in there, of course, but it's grass-fed beef collagen, which, by the way, we could do a whole class on collagen, which we really should talk about because we've got to replace collagen as the years go on. It helps with joints and bones. And this is nothing in here at all that I see at all. And there's just no added sugar or anything. So all organic. And you can also get, if you don't want to mix a packet, they've got these now, these little containers, bone broth. And I buy at Costco the bigger one, and I make soup sometimes.
Right.
I make my own. I roast any food we are eating, whether it's any animal we're eating. I take the bones, the skin, and everything. I throw it in a crock pot with a little bit of water and a little bit of apple cider vinegar to pull the minerals from the bones. Turn it on for 24 hours, strain it. There's your bone broth. You might need, you need some salt with that, but
and throw some veggies in there, right?
This one I love.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah,
I love.
I've never seen it.
Yeah,
And
I know. It's kind of new there.
I cook with bone broth all the time.
Yeah, good.
Bone broth in it.
Better to do your own.
Hey, Kelly, what's the difference between, bone broth in the last, 5 to 7 years has become the buzzword. Before it was just chicken broth. What's the difference?
There's no difference. Chicken or beef or fish. And again, every culture they made soup in their kitchen.
With the bones from the carcass, right?
It's what you get in your canned soup. This is better because you can control what goes in it. So, what was the president that said a chicken in every pot? The reason is that chicken could go all week long. You make the broth, start making soup, take your leftover vegetables that are going bad out of the fridge and throw it in there, chop them up, throw them in there. You got your extra meat from the chicken, throw it in there and you've got soup. The beef bones, make sure everything's roasted too. So if you're having steak or you're having pot roast or whatever, make sure that the bones you're using to put in the stock has been roasted, or stick it in the oven with a little bit of oil on it for 30 minutes and get them roasted because that helps with flavor.
Right.
Yeah. But the soup, the broth is really good. I use these. Do you guys know about soupers? It's just like a silicone. And then you pour the broth into here, and then you stick it in the freezer.
Nice.
And then you can just pop one out, and you can make. I have my favorite ones. My daughter has right now, but they're 2 cups. So you can make just a pot of soup with the homemade broth that you've made.
Oh, that's a great way to store them.
These are the quick and easy tips because if it's not quick, it's not easy, doesn't taste good, you're not going to do it.
You won't do it.
You won't do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Yeah, and I think that you're so on this, because what I always do when I look for anybody to take advice from on nutrition and health, I always look, did they attend Bastyr University?
Oh, well, then all that private college was worth the money.
Because I do. If somebody's from Bastyr, then they have instant credibility with me, because then I know they're serious.
Yeah.
They just take like an online course,
Yeah.
So, but one comment I have, I'm very unusual in that when I was growing up, and I thank my parents for this, my mother, is I never ate in a restaurant until I graduated from high school.
Wow.
I mean, because one, my mother was a great cook. Kids in our family, so she cooked every single meal every day, and she was great at it. And my parents thought children should never be in restaurants. That was an adult event.
Yeah. My folks kind of thought that way too, although they would take us to Chinese every now and then.
Yeah, so never in a restaurant until I graduated from high school.
Oh, that's great.
So till this day, I'm not, although I've had a career and I've traveled around the world, I've eaten in thousands of restaurants. It's not my natural tendency.
Yeah.
Eat in a
Isn't
restaurant.
that something?
So I myself cook all my own meals. I don't go to restaurants.
That's crazy.
You
can formulate those kids in those early days. You have control of what goes in. And I always felt like if you build that good foundation before they get out there and get to the fast food restaurants and stuff, you got that foundation, that human body, that little immune system is starting out strong, and they can handle that stuff. It's interesting, if they drift off, they come back. Because I see my daughters now just coming back to, they went through their 20s like we all did. And I see them now coming back to the earth. Like, okay.
To the mothership, right?
So I think it's so important. So for myself, I've been very lucky because I've been disease-free my whole life. And I attribute it to that. Home cooking. And my mother was very fussy about ingredients, so she was never a margarine person or anything. And but not eating in restaurants. I just think that for some reason because you don't know what restaurants put in food.
Right, exactly.
So
isn't it interesting that I don't know if you guys have noticed this, I'm a baby boomer, I'm 66. So what happened to us is all of a sudden TV happened, and they had these cereals, these sugary cereals in the morning, and these commercials that fed on the cartoons, it fed kids all these things that the parents would buy them because they didn't have them, because their parents didn't have access to that stuff, and they wanted to give us the best stuff. And I don't know if you guys are noticing, the boomer population, they're dying sooner. They're the ones with all these diseases that are filling up hospitals. So we got to, here's another clue, another coincidence, something to think about.
Well, I know Cindy's heard me say this. All you want to do is feel good for a day. Go to a Social Security office. I go there because of my son. And when you walk in, like I used to always go to the one in Everett years ago. I don't anymore. But when you walk in there, I felt pretty good because I was one of the few people that could actually walk in.
Yeah.
There's so many people were there. I mean, I sat next to numerous people who'd say, "Oh, I'm like 66," and they looked like 85. And and so when I left, I felt like a spring chicken,
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
So anyway,
spread the message, because that one little seed we plant with somebody of something you heard on the hors d'oeuvre platter today is going to help somebody else. So I would encourage that to continue.
I love it. That's a great takeaway, Kelly. So before we close the call, because we started a few minutes late, so I want to make sure we give some information for those who are listening who want to get to know you, want to work with you, want to learn more about their, just gut biome and keeping these rituals and these 5 steps that you've shared with us today so generously. So you have a free offer you want to make available. Tell us about it.
Yeah, a free 30-minute consultation. And I also work with supplements as a tool, just like all these other little things. There's just little hacks and little things that I've learned over the years. I'm willing to do a redo your medicine cabinet 30-minute consultation, whether we do it on Zoom or on the phone. Bring in what you're taking, any kind of natural supplements. I'm not an expert with pharmaceuticals at all. So if you're on any pharmaceuticals, that's something you work with your physician on. Everything I do has to do with food and lifestyle and just promoting ways to do that. So if you're interested in that, just text, reach out, email or text would be great. Or messenger.
Yeah, and I'll put Kelli, your website is transformationmission.com.
Yeah, and don't judge me from that website because it's like, I'm not a techie.
That's okay. That's okay. It's just a point of contact, and or they can email you at kelli@transformationmission.com or check the description box below for your contact information so that they can text you or email to schedule their consultation, right?
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. This has been a really fun conversation, and it just reminds me that the little things matter, right? Baby steps matter. So do you have any closing remarks you want to end our conversation with, Kelli, before we sign off?
I think I said it to Chuck, I mean, this is just a lot of material, a lot of stuff. We could do a class on each little thing, but just look at any information that's coming in as just an hors d'oeuvre platter, and don't pressure yourself to make all these changes at once. And, just to make sure that you're making choices and decisions that are based around taking care of you and your human body. So the hors d'oeuvre platter, take 1 or 2 of these. Don't keep it to yourself, share it with a friend or family member, and just spread this word.
I love it. Well, thank you, Kelli, so much for generously sharing your brilliance and passion for making a difference in the world with us. So signing out, and remember to make every connection an exceptional connection.
Thank you.